everyone, this is Syntax, and welcome to the final video in the class explanation series for my new map, where today we're going to be taking a look at the King class. For those of you who aren't aware, the King is the most important piece in chess. If you lose your King, you lose the game. However, ironically enough, he has the worst movement out of every other piece. At any given moment, he can only move one square at a time, which is actually kind of funny because even the pawn can move 2 squares on his first move, so the King's movement is just awful in general. Anyway, to represent this 1 square at a time movement in my map, I made it so that the King is unfortunately the only class that can't sprint, which means he also has no sprint jump and no sprint attack either. Now I know what you guys are thinking. How on earth is the King going to be able to compete against these other pieces when literally all of them have sprint jumps and sprint attacks? Well, luckily for the King, his lack of movement is his only shortcoming. Everything else about him makes him an absolute monster. Equipped with his sword, special abilities, and a ranger shotgun that receives a bullet every 40 seconds, the King has the highest DPS out of every class in the game. Essentially, when the King lands an attack on you, it can only really best be described as getting hit by a truck. Now, the King's sword is an interesting one because every time you chain together your basic attacks, the damage is amplified. So on your first hit, you're only going to be dealing about 40 damage, but by those 5th and 6th hits, you're dealing about 100 damage per shot. He's got good basic attacks, he's got a good charge attack, and a pretty strong jump attack, but probably the best thing about this sword is that blocking deflects 100% of damage. It stops all of it. In fact, there's not a single attack that any of the classes could do that would damage the King while he's blocking. It's honestly pretty ridiculous. Now remember, blocking doesn't prevent knockback, and if you're not looking at your opponent when they hit you, you still are going to take damage, but for the most part, you can pretty much just eat every attack that is thrown at you. Of course, let's not forget about some of the strongest special abilities in the game. Using the King's primary special ability grants you an RPG and double damage for 10 seconds, which, if you ask me, is a recipe for disaster to anybody that is close by. Using the King's secondary special ability grants you a grenade launcher for 10 seconds. So if you're fighting somebody and you get their health super low, they start to run away, and you realize you have no shotgun shells, you can just pull out your grenade launcher, fire 1 or 2 shots at them, and take them out no problem. Listen, to sum up the King, yes, his movement is terrible. It's the worst in the game, but when you deal the most damage out of every other class, while at the same time taking the least amount of damage, I think awful movement is a justifiable price to pay for being such a monster. But anyway, that's pretty much everything that I have to say about the King, and I am very happy to announce that this map will officially be coming out March 28th, which at the time of me posting this will be tomorrow. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you all very, very soon.